Welcome to Only in America. I'm Ali Noorani. This week, how one police officer gets to know the people in his county's Muslim communities, and how cultural awareness builds trust.
You know, people sometimes they give you a little look that, are you for real?
Yeah.
Are you one of us or are you one of them? You know, the answer is it will take them some time to build that trust. And I think that time is based on how often you stop by. But you can't just stop by and say hi once and forget about everything. And you cannot just do it once a year because people forget about you. How frequent you stop by is very important. So it was not earned from day one. Let's just say it took them some time.
From the National Immigration Forum, I'm Ali Noorani.
Only in America.
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 In a political context, we hear a lot about changing demographics. Who's going to vote? What do they look like? Where do they live? Which party are they going to side with? But our majority-minority future is much broader than just politics. Our demographics define identity, our workforce, and the ways we relate to each other. The U.S. is projected to become a majority-minority country by the year 2045. With a rise in Latinx and Asian immigrants and a lower birth rate among white Americans, non-Hispanic white people have become the minority in 32 more U.S. counties since 2010. Next year, the entire under-18 population will be majority non-white. Late last year, Pew Research found that Generation Z is our most racially and ethnically diverse generation yet. These realities leave us with the option to either embrace these changes or allow racism and xenophobia to intensify. Now, I'm a firm believer that America is much better than the racism and xenophobia that is coursing through our society. In these changes lie an opportunity to help us grow as a nation. In analyzing the data from our nation's most recent census, William Frey of Brookings discussed the future of America's ethnic diversity and how ultimately that's driving growth as white baby boomers are aging.
If we didn't have the minority growth this decade, we would have had a much, much lower rate of growth in the United States population. The Hispanic population accounted for half or more of the growth in 18 states. And that was only the case for 9 states in the 1990s. And as far as cities are concerned and metropolitan areas are concerned, those metropolitan areas in kind of the older, whiter part of the country are benefiting more from the new minorities than Florida or Texas or California or someplace like that. Because these are the places really have to sustain that growth, and they're just really aging rapidly. In a way, they're a gift for the country this decade, because if we didn't have them demographically, we would be on the road to Japan, which has a very slow-growing, aging population.
Of the 3 fears that people have when it comes to immigration, culture, economy, and security, we've found the anxieties around safety and security to be the most deeply held. For many people with these concerns, they ask, are immigrants and refugees threats or protectors? Are they national security or public safety threats? Or do they make positive contributions to communities, even serving in law enforcement and in the military? So then, how do we keep a changing America safe? How do these demographic trends affect local policing? Are local police officers equipped to ensure the safety of all residents? Picture this. You're a male police officer called about a domestic violence incident between a husband and a wife, both of whom are Muslim. You hear there may have been a physical assault which needs to be reported within 48 hours, but you need evidence. The woman claims she was hit in the back of the head by her husband, and she's wearing a hijab that she refuses to take off in front of you because she's devoted to her faith. What would you do? How would you pursue justice while respecting religious and cultural sensitivities? I chatted with a police officer for this week's episode who faced that very situation. And as an immigrant and a Muslim himself, he knew how to find a solution quickly. Diversity in law enforcement helps build trust in communities, in turn, keeping all of us safer. Along these lines, I've had the opportunity to talk with police chiefs and sheriffs across the country about the ways demographic shifts are changing their approach to local policing. As part of the Law Enforcement Immigration Task Force, these 125 police chiefs and sheriffs are collaborating on ways to build trust and safety in their changing communities. You can find more information about their approach toward a path to public safety at their website, leitf.org.
Support for the National Immigration Forum comes from the James Irvine Foundation, expanding opportunity for the people of California, and from the Carnegie Corporation of New York, established in 1911 by Andrew Carnegie to promote the advancement and diffusion of knowledge and understanding.
Montgomery County, Maryland, right outside of Washington, D.C., is one of the most diverse counties in America and has about 1 million residents. As the community is diversifying, law enforcement leaders are working on building a force that better reflects the community that they serve. Sherif Almiggabber is an officer with the Community Engagement Unit at the Montgomery County Police Department, where he's worked for 13 years. Sherif grew up in Egypt, where he later studied and trained to be a police officer in the Cairo Police Department. After having the opportunity to come to the U.S. as a wrestler, he decided to pursue a career in law enforcement here, going through training in his mid-30s. As an immigrant and as a Muslim, he is not only a police officer to the Muslim residents of the Montgomery County, he's the guy who prays with them every Friday and speaks at the local mosque. I recently got to chat with him about the differences between being a police officer in Egypt and in the U.S., plus instances where he's used his cultural awareness to solve conflict and fight crime.
Born in Cairo, growing up in Alexandria, and following my father's steps. Dad used to be a police officer back in federal police in Egypt. So a part of being a police officer, they don't keep you in one spot. They keep moving you. And the federal police is one big academy that dumps in an academy session of 1,000 to 1,100 people every year, and you get to move them between different cities. Coming to the U.S. was done in 1989. September of 1989.
Why did you come to the U.S.?
I used to be a part of the national wrestling team, and I get to travel, around the world, different locations, and a part of my travel was coming here to the U.S. Came into the U.S. A couple of times prior to coming over to stay. Was all wrestling related, and I had my aunt here in Maryland actually. And 1989, I felt like I've been working as a police officer for almost 3 years in Cairo. After living in a police academy for 4 years, because the academy is a little different than what we have in the U.S. Academy overseas, similar. The closest picture to it is the Naval Academy that we have in here. So you finish up your high school, you get your high school diploma, and you get in your college degree through that 4-year live-in academy, again like the Naval Academy. So I graduated with a law degree and a police science degree from the police academy in Egypt.
And why did you want to become a police officer in Egypt?
Part of it was I like what Dad did. Because he was my role model and everything, and he was my wrestling coach in wrestling, and he's my father at home, and he's the police officer that I get to see in uniform once in a while, and somehow I also like being in uniform.
It cuts down on the shopping choices, It makes it so much easier to dress in the morning,
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Plus, I was following my older brother, who was also a police officer.
Oh, really?
Still a police officer back in Egypt. And he was a year ahead of me. So I'm like, let me just do the same thing like everyone else. That was the short answer. And then after that, reality check, and I felt like I can do better than this. That's why I wanted to start somewhere else. And you could have started in the same place and just, leave the job, or let's just change the job and change the place.
Right.
That's why I decided to come to the U.S.
So you came to the U.S., and you came originally for wrestling, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So then what led you to the decision to join the force in the States?
My first 14 years in the U.S., I was working in a security field, and it was all done in New York City. For family reasons, a part of the 14 years was 7.5 years of marriage that did not work out. And then after the marriage, I got divorced, and I got 3 kids. But after the marriage broke down, I was in the process of getting through a lot of federal jobs. And my ex-wife at the time, she could tell me, this is not good for the kids, and, your days with a badge and gun are gone, when you left Egypt, and you shouldn't be doing it. So I started the process, and I always ended. As a result of the divorce, I felt like I'm going to be doing what I want now, So, I applied, and I wanted to be an NYPD, but they had a problem. The cutoff age in NYPD is actually 34. I was 36 at the time, so I could not be a police officer. Almost in what they call the tri-state area of New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, because they had almost the same rules. I had to go down south to this area. I loved the job. I came from the background of having a police family. I wanted to come here to the States for the wrestling reason, but now let me put the law enforcement back in play again, and was not able to do it during the marriage, like what I said. Since I felt like I'm solo again, maybe that.
Is there a difference? What are the differences between being an officer in Cairo versus here in the States?
It's funny asking me this because literally this last trip to Egypt, when I went there, it was so weird because I tried to get in touch with my old academy class. Found out that they had a WhatsApp group, and I'm sure you're familiar with WhatsApp. Yeah. So they added my name to the WhatsApp group, and so I told one of them that I'm going to Egypt, and they have monthly meetings.
Oh, really?
That I was not aware of.
There's an alumni network you had no idea about.
Yeah, there's a great network. So they put me in, and we get to sit down and talk, and I get to meet some of them that they actually went all the way to Australia and have jobs there.
Really?
Not in the law enforcement, but they actually decided to leave the country. And some of them were retired, some of them have their own restaurant business, but 228 of them are currently generals. So they high-rank officers, and they're almost ruling the entire country because they are in charge. They are the chiefs of police almost in every single city, or assistant to the chief of police of those cities. So I thought it was great.
So Montgomery County is one of the more diverse counties in the country. What was it like going through the training process here? What was that first day on the job like at Montgomery County Police Department?
So you get to join a police academy for 6 months in Montgomery County. And you got to go through the training for 6 months, similar training that you have in a lot of other police academies. And then day one, after you finish up your graduation, you partner with what they call a field training officer. And you will be with the field training officer for another 3 months. The field training officer, he or she get to evaluate you. And first day in the academy, I felt like, oh, this is great. My academy here is 7 to 3, Monday through Friday. I get to go home at the end of the academy day at 3 p.m. I get to eat what I call a civilian meal. And where I'm going with this is I stayed in a police academy in Egypt for 4 years, live-in, where you cooking, if you picture this, to almost 5,000 people who living in behind walls in a boot camp of 45 days that they're not even allowed to leave or see the streets. And when they're allowed to leave, they leave Thursday afternoon, they come back Friday night. And you're supposed to rush up and just wash your clothes and get ready, see your family, say hi and bye, and then you come back right away.
And go to the Friday prayers and turn around.
Go to Friday prayers and turn around, exactly. Yeah. So the academy it felt much easier. The only difference is that, I was doing an academy at a little older age, 36. Some people were younger, but I felt like I'm in a good shape enough to do it, and it was easy.
And then what about the first day, as a sworn officer?
First day as a sworn officer was interesting because you feel like, oh, that's a completely different treatment than the academy days. You still had to deal with, seniority. You still had to deal with the field training officer. I was getting introduced, at least for me, to a completely different area because the academy and the training of the academy was in Rockville. I was not familiar with Wheaton district, and Wheaton is a very busy place, if I can call it that in a nice way, in Montgomery County. So it was very interesting. So I felt like I came in with a background of a country that have no probable cause to arrest someone, Egypt, hint, hint, and I'm coming here to a country that you better have a good reason, a probable cause to actually arrest somebody. So it was an adjustment. Some people thought I'm a little too aggressive in the beginning. Well, this is the wrestler guy, Egyptian with that background. And some people think, wow, this guy is great because he can actually not only protect himself, but he can help us out in some other scenarios. It's always like wearing different hats.
Kind of going to the point around the diversity of the community of the county.
Yeah.
How has that helped? How has that hurt in terms of your background and being able to engage with residents?
I thought it actually helped more than hurting. A part of the diversity of the county, that the county made what they call a language bank And a language bank means that anyone who speaks a different language, we're willing to provide him, even give him, he or she, different extra money, and we will use that language to help the community. So I speak Arabic, I'm fluent in Arabic, so they added me to that part. And a part of it also is relating to people. So I'm the Muslim guy who can actually relate to all the mosques within the community. So they added me to that part. Okay, so you'll be within the Wheaton district, we'll have 5 mosques. Stop by and say hi and eat with them, and that's all what they can tell you, you know. So I say hi in my own way and just go around and blend in and pray the Friday prayer like what you said with them and other prayers at the same time.
At that time, was there another Muslim officer in Wheaton?
There is only one other Muslim officer in Montgomery County Police Department at that time. Funny you asking, because his name is also Sherif. He's also Egyptian. It happened to be 2 Sherifs working within the same district, and they both have the same background. The only difference is that he came in here at age 3. I came here a little older at age 23. Yeah.
So then, in those days when you would go meet with the imam and with the leadership in the community at the mosques, were people surprised?
You know, people sometimes they give you a little look that, are you for real?
Yeah.
Are you one of us or are you one of them? You know, the answer is it will take them some time to build that trust. And I think that time is based on how often you stop by. That you can't just stop by and say hi once and forget about everything. And you cannot just do it once a year because people forget about you. How frequent you stop by is very important. So it was not earned from day one. Let's just say it will took them some time.
And then you had mentioned that other officers felt like you could help them out in other situations.
Yes.
What did you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that how many people that you can say they have wrestling background, the community-related help, the Arabic translation. We get called for domestic violence, and I'm just giving you a quick example. In a domestic violence, a huge discussion, a heated argument, verbal, thank God, between 2 couples. Couple happened to be Muslim, and they were actually from Pakistan. The whole big deal was the husband brought a dog, and he is married to a very traditional Pakistani female. She was born and raised in Pakistan, to give you a little more background. And he is, you know, he's born and raised in the U.S. So it was a little cultural difference and a little how strict you are following the faith, the religion. So she, in the Muslim faith, you know, raising a dog, it might cause some issue because he should not be around an area that we pray in and all of this stuff. For the husband, he's like, really? You know, I just bought a dog. You know, what's the big deal? I bought a dog for the kids. That's how started the argument. And when you get police coming in, because neighbors reported the argument, and then you get to hear this, what are they talking about? You know, they really didn't have any clue. I'm just giving you
but you have the context.
But I have the context. So I'm like, I start laughing and explain it to them, and they were like, oh, really? You know, and now we understand what's going on. And another quick example when I used the language, because this one was a real domestic case between a Syrian guy and a Palestinian lady. And the Palestinian lady complained that she was hit by the Syrian husband. And a part of what the police department do, if they actually see a sign of physical assault, they have no choice. If that assault happened within 48 hours and is being reported within the 48 hours, they have no choice but to arrest the primary aggressor, which is in that case was the husband. The only issue is that that female, the Palestinian female, was wearing a hijab, was covered. And she claimed that she was hit in the back of her head. But she is not willing to expose the back of her head to anyone else of the male officers that they actually respond. And they really don't understand what's the reason, you know, because maybe we're not well educated when it comes up to understanding other people's faith. So I show up and I said, oh, this is a simple solution. Let's get a female. Yeah. And you get a female in the spot and you just solve everything else.
So do you feel like the cultural awareness of the department has changed over time in the way that your fellow officers interact with a very diverse community? I've
been in this job for 15 years now. I think there is a complete change. Maybe not enough. Maybe it will never be enough. Maybe it's not fast enough to do that change. Maybe there's a lot more could be done. But yes, there is a change. And I think a part of the change is who's in the police department. There's a lot of different immigrants from different countries. if I want a Spanish-speaking officer, if I want a Russian-speaking officer, if I want an Arabic-speaking officer, you have all three of them. If I want to understand the Spanish culture, I have the part. If I want to understand the Muslim culture, I have the part. If I want to understand the Jewish culture, I have the part. And I think that diversity is what makes us able to live together, but I think it's also reflecting the population of Montgomery County.
Yeah. So how many Muslim officers are in the department now?
Three. And you know, since you asked, the fun part is they added a third Egyptian. And her name is Shireen. So you got Sherif, and Shireen. You know, we're hoping for more, but it's very difficult. And when I say difficult, I get involved in recruitment events.
I was gonna ask,
And in the recruitment events, you know, some of them, especially females, I had some females from Pakistan, I had some females from Bangladesh. Some of them are very strict at the same time. They think that this is not the best job for them, but they studied criminal justice and they wanted to be police officers. So they wanted someone, Muslim person, to explain to them what is involved. How I'm going to be praying during a 6-month academy. No one talks about that part because that's affecting a minority group, right? And no one will advertise even to talk about that part because that's not a part of any application process or any hiring process unless you ask. That's the thing. So during my academy, I asked, I said, hey, I need to go out and pray Friday, Jum'ah prayer. So he said, oh, wait a second, we need to investigate. Literally what I was told 15 years ago. We need to investigate that part. What to investigate? So they called the imam in Islamic Center of Maryland, ICM in Woodfield, and they did a Google search, you know, like, and all of this stuff. At least they educated themselves to give them the credit. And then they came to me and they explained to me, listen, there's a limited hours of the curriculum that we need to provide to you for the police academy. And if you shorten those hours because you're going to be leaving every Friday, it might be a problem and all this stuff. And I said, I understand, but this is a part of my faith and it's something that I need to do. So they said, okay, we'll let you go, but maybe not every week. And then at the end, they said, do you know what's the problem? And I said, what problem? I said, the problem is that we had people like you before, but they never asked. So there is no set rules about what you can provide to a certain group of people, but they have to ask. And most of the people, they don't want to bother about asking. Let me keep my mouth shut and just go through the academy.
So now when you're participating in recruitment, and if it's a Muslim woman who wants to join, she feels comfortable asking you.
Oh, I've been through many discussions, and we had emails from Muslim guys. They said, hey, can I get exempt for a full beard? Literally, that's what they're asking for. I'd like to be a police officer. I think I'm qualified. And before they applying, they asking. So I think it's more of an awareness, and educating people. What can they ask for? What they can have? What they can do? But also I think that a part of it is on them to ask, because if they're not asking, no one will be volunteering information.
And then do you feel like when somebody asks you that question, is another part of your role then to help the institution and the department understand the issues, right?
Not only that, but this is really a great department to work for, and being a police officer is a great job. If there's a concern about practicing certain faith or a concern about religious issues, for example, we need to encourage those people to come over. You know, I had the captain in our recruitment department. He said, what can we do, Sherif, to get your people to become police officers? Well, this is a great approach because that's his job. His job is to recruit more police officers. And you know, he noticed something when I was helping him out and stuff like that. But he came and he asked me. Well, not that many maybe people will ask the same thing. You know, when they ask you something, you need to have the answer ready for them, and it's always educational.
So then as you were in the field, were there times where you had to explain to the resident of Montgomery County who was not Muslim, who kind of looked at you and said something that was potentially mean, bigoted? Has there ever been anybody who's questioned whether or not you were fit to be an officer?
You know, I've been in this country for 30 years, and maybe I still have some accent. And some people do kind of wonder why you have an accent. You know, some other people, they might even make fun of it. It may not be faith related, it may not be related to anything, but it's just the fact that you have an accent. Some people can tell you, go back to your country, regardless to what country it is. Just because you're not full-breed American yet. But then again, what is a full-breed American? You know, I think we all came from somewhere. Did I have some challenges? Yes, I did. But I think a part of The process is be able to stand your ground at the same time. I think that there is two parts. There is a responsibility on me also to educate that other person. Was I able to use a lot of things in my advantage? Yes. I had an African-American gentleman one day. He actually said, I'd like to have an African-American officer to come to me right now. And there was none in the district of Wheaton working at the time. So I said, I'm African-American. And I'm going. I told the dispatcher, I'm African-American. She's like, okay, So I went to the guy, and he looks at me, and he said, I asked for an African-American officer. I said, sir, I was born and raised in Egypt. And if you really look at the map, Egypt is in Africa. So I'm not lying to you. I'm African-American. And the minute that I said Egypt to the guy, they said, the land of the pyramids? Really? You Egyptian? And we de-escalate the whole situation down, and I get to help him out, and I get to listen to him. And I had 3 other officers that they felt like, oh, this is crazy. Maybe this is a crazy call. We need to give him some backup. And, they were assessing the situation. We managed.
Yeah. At what point did you feel you were American? Or do you even feel that yet?
I just came from Egypt yesterday. So I'm going to tell you the long answer, and then I'll give you the short answer.
Okay.
So the long answer is, when I go to Egypt, to get into Egypt, I give them my passport. In the past, I had the American passport, and they look at me and they give me that suspicious look. Like, oh, so this guy is American, but you are Egyptian. And they asked me what I do for a living, so I told them I work as a police officer. And then they got a little suspicious again. Is he an FBI agent, or is he what? When I come to the U.S. and say, hey, what do you do in Egypt? I get family there. I was born there, and visiting my parents. Oh, well, do you do a lot of traveling? You go there every year? And I said, yeah. How often do you see your parents? At least once a year. Maybe in Christmas time, maybe in Thanksgiving, maybe in one holiday a year. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just doing the same thing back. So, to get back to you, and I think we need to define what is an American. I think an American is a person who came from any other country in the world. And that's how I want to look at it, because American could be with German roots, and American could be with British roots, or American could be with African roots. And if I can relate to Africa, so maybe I'm one of those Americans. So I'd like to be an American. I always feel like I'm an American person, but also who is a little open-minded, who can relate to other people. That's how I want to define myself.
So my last question for you is, the name of the podcast is Only in America. I ask you to finish this sentence. Only in America, ...
Only in America that you can come over and redeem yourself and get rewarded for actually what you do. This does not happen in many other countries. I know it did not happen in Egypt, where I came from. At age 23, when I left, there was no sign for it to happen. Only in America, when you come over and redeem yourself and show some hard work, you actually feel like you're going somewhere and you get rewarded. Only in America.
Thank you, Sherif.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, Ali.
Only in America is produced and edited by Emily Chow, Joanna Taylor, and Megan Wetmore. Kathleen Farrell is the executive producer, and I'm Ali Nirani. Thank you for listening to Only in America. Talk to you next week.